Today we're going to be taking a look at a couple of calculated fields. We can see here we have a fairly simple table. We have a pit, strip, and block, and we have two seams, our A seam and our B seam. A seam has benches 50 and 40, and B seam has 30 through 0. What we're going to take a look at is two calculated fields. One is going to be the top of seam coal. So in this seam we could see that that would highlight this box, and in the B seam we would see that that would highlight this box. Then we're going to take a look at the top of block coal. So this is going to consider this from a whole block level. So it would be the first time we find coal, and that would be here, but now we are not going to be highlighting this area. So let's jump in. We're going to take a look at the top of seam coal first. So we're going to turn this into a calculated expression. And we are going to be looking for our coal volume. And we want this to be greater than 0. Now the other thing that we need to do here is make sure that the previous record has a coal volume that is 0. So there are two things that we have to consider when we're doing this. One, we have to consider if that previous record actually doesn't exist. Then we want to consider that a success. Or if it does actually have 0 coal volume in it, then we will consider that a success. So what we're going to do is write and, open up our brackets, close our brackets, and we have to put both of those scenarios in here. So then we want to get the value. And this is going to use our coal, but it's going to be our previous sibling. So this is going to look at the previous sibling from our tree. And then similarly, again, we want this coal volume. So that is one of the operators that we want. And in this case, we do want this to be equal to 0. But the other thing that we said might happen is we may want to know if that previous sibling doesn't exist. So we can do this using an is null. So now when we take a look at this, we are saying if an area has coal in it and the record before it in a bench doesn't exist, or it actually has no coal, then that's what we're looking for. And if we hit accept on this, we'll see in this seam we find that to be true here, and in this seam we find that to be true here. Now let's take a look at the top of block coal. Now this is going to be very similar. So we can take our first expression here, and we can reuse that in this expression. But we also want one more added thing here. We want to know that the seam above us also doesn't exist. So again, at the end of this, we're just going to write another and then this time what we're looking for is the same way we used get previous sibling before. We are going to use that again, but in a slightly different fashion. So what we want is a previous sibling, but this time we're going to take a slightly different node. So in this case, what we want to do is actually get a position. And this can either be from a parent, or we can actually get a position if we know the level and node that we're looking for. So what we're going to do is use get parent, and then we're going to choose the level that we want this to go to. So in our case, this is a seam. Once we've completed all of that, what this now says is we're going to get the parent. So we're going to look up at the seam level, and then I'm going to go to the previous seam, and I want to know, is this seam null? Does this exist? So in the same way, we can use that is null feature to get that. Now when I hit apply, I can hit close, and we'll see this top of block col now no longer applies here, but at the very top record of our block, we do get that applying there.